It's brand new.
It's brand new, and we're gonna listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank y'all. Let's see. This really cute little banjo has a really cool sound, so I'm gonna play it for you and sing a couple songs. And I always, I started playing the ukulele just recently, just last year, when my uncle was really sick. And he's my dad's older brother. And he was, I would go visit him in the nursing home. He died this summer, he was 93. And I would go visit him in the nursing home with my ukulele and I would practice. And I played this blues song one day and he started to sing along with me. And he got really animated, he was really, really excited about it. So I just kept on playing the blues songs and he would tell me stories all about life back in the day. When he grew up. And they were even different from the stories that my dad told me because he was my dad's older brother by about 10 years, so he had a lot of different things to say that I didn't know about. One of the things that he told me about was when he was a little boy, my grandfather, and I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, and it's a little podunk town. It's a Navy town, so some people know it by that, but really it's a pretty small town. Not anymore, but at the time it was. And when I was a kid, it was even a small town, but when my grandfather was, coming up there, it was really tiny. And he was a dentist, but he also actually owned a very large farm. And when he first bought the property, like way out on the west side of Pensacola, it was way away from the water, everybody was kind of like, I told us why not. That land out there, there's really nothing around. And he made it into a dairy farm at first. And my Uncle Bill used to tell me stories, he told me stories this summer, just about how when he was 12 years old, how he used to have to get up at 4 a.m. and get in the family car and drive, because he drove when he was 12, drive out to the farm. He would get out there at like 4 o'clock in the morning, milk the cows, then send them back out to pasture, and then drive home and walk his little brothers and sisters to school. And that's what he did. So life was a little bit different back then. And one of the things that was so, really intensely amazing about this time was that also, as a black family in the Jim Crow South, back in the 40s is when this was happening, 1940s, it was kind of unheard of for a black man to be able to purchase 125 acres of land. But there were actually other black people that had land. There was a close friend of his had some land out on the beach, out at Chicken Bone Beach, and that's kind of where the black people were allowed to go. And they had a really nice gazebo out there, but it was burned down because it was a thriving gathering place for black people. And my grandfather took note of that and bought his land out on the west side where it wasn't quite as desirable. And he actually had all kinds of stuff out there. And it was far enough away, it was a big enough piece of land that it was far enough away from the road that people didn't really know just how well they could do it. And one of the things that he made sure of and that he declared on his land is that there will be no lynchings. And the amazing thing about that is that after they moved out there, once my dad's youngest brother was born, Uncle Michael, he was the first one of all of them. He never, ever had to see a body hanging from a tree. And neither did I, or any of my cousins, and we played on this land. And so that was something that my grandfather did for me. And his whole story was pretty amazing. He started out as a porter on the railroad. And that's what, back in the day, that's what black men were allowed to do. That was like probably one of the best jobs. It's actually a really historical of great historical significance is that that was one of the first times that Black people actually could make money. And he also put himself through college and went to dental school, became a dentist. And he was the first doctor of any kind to have an interracial practice at all, of any kind, in Pensacola. So there are a lot of really important things he did. And one of the things that that he also did was out there, they had a club where people could gather, and they had blues bands and everything. And one of the songs that people sang out there was this one, and it's a really important significance because it was written by a Black man, and everybody thinks of it as like the quintessential women's blues because it was made popular by Jessica Rabbit in Roger Rabbit, yeah, and really. But that's not really what that song is about. What this song is about is, think of it from the perspective of a Black man who's in the Jim Crow South, who was likely himself a slave or his parents were born into slavery. And they're trying their best to make it in this world that's just, burning down your buildings every time you build one, murdering your family, raping your women, and so trying to get ahead is near impossible. And so this is really the outcry, his outcry, and it has kind of taken on a different tone throughout, popular history. But this is sort of, it was him speaking, and these are his words. So we'll play those right now. A little bit, because it's got a pick in it, and I can make it loud. Okay, here we go. Somebody do we know where that beacon is called? Somebody? Oh, thank you. the morning too. I said, get out of here, get me some money. Strategically place this very slickly somewhere. Well, it's staying there. Okay. And then when I was, of course, we're all frantic tonight. So I was frantically getting ready, trying to decide what to sing tonight. And I was texting back and forth with my family, and I was texting with my son, who was just landing back in school tonight. He has been at my parents' house in Pensacola for the last few weeks because in Florida, or I guess a month now, or no, maybe almost a month now, because of the hurricanes in Tampa, because he goes to school right in Tampa, St. Pete, right on the water, and so he had to hightail it out of there. And he's been hanging out with them for a while, and he was really itching to get back because he's a college student, you don't hang out with old people all the time. But, he was also there, he was also excited to get back because we have this really important event coming up in our nation just days away. And he is part of a really huge movement in Florida, which I don't know, how many people really know this, but I mean, Florida it's really not a red state, it's a blue state. It's pretty much always been a blue state. It just is that it ends up red because they don't count votes there. And do all kinds of shenanigans and gerrymanderings to make sure that it doesn't happen that way. And he's part of a big movement called the Future Leaders of Florida, which is a youth movement in Florida that has got not just college students, but high schoolers too, who are there to get out and vote and get people out in Florida to vote so that we can actually turn the tides on this election and really make it happen, because they're the ones who are down there really affected by all of the banned books and all of these things that they actually went to school to learn the truth, and they're not getting it. So it was really exciting to hear him be really excited that that he was worried about not being down there and not being able to make the push to get people out to vote, to be part of that. And so there's a big movement afoot, and I think that it's really hopeful. And so a lot of us have been going through a lot of things lately. Life seems to be pretty hard right now for everybody. I've been going through a really tough divorce, and there's just finally, I don't know, it feels like to me at least a glimmer of hope when I look at my kids and my son, and I think about all of this history of my grandfather, my grandparents, and all of this stuff sort of flooding back to me. And anyway, so I wanted to sing this song by Andrew Day that is one of my favorites, and it's just really uplifting, and it's time. It's time to rise up. So
Let's do it.
Right.